Good evening, I'm Officer Flink, Palm Beach Gardens. The reason I pulled you over is you're going 71 miles an hour.
I can walk whenever
like
you want.
this?
I'm because you white, I'm black. I don't want to
So
get
you're
killed.
racist. So why are you being racist?
My hands are up. I don't have no weapons.
What's your
Please
name?
don't choke me or hurt me, please.
71 miles per hour in a posted 45 zone is not a minor infraction on a dark Florida highway. The excessive speed creates a kinetic energy that turns a vehicle into a potential weapon. It is late at night in Palm Beach Gardens when Officer Flink activates his emergency equipment. The red and blue strobe lights cut through the humidity and darkness. They bounce off the reflective signs and the asphalt of the roadway. A white sedan is the target of this enforcement action. The driver does not pull over immediately in a controlled manner. Instead, the vehicle performs a slow roll. It coasts along the shoulder for a distance that exceeds the standard reaction time. This behavior is the first indicator that the person behind the wheel may be struggling with divided attention tasks. The ability to recognize a signal and safely maneuver a vehicle is often the first skill to degrade under impairment. The car finally comes to a complete stop. Inside the vehicle sits a 45-year-old woman in the driver's seat and her twin sister in the passenger seat. The environment inside the car is likely filled with the sudden spike of adrenaline that accompanies a police stop. Officer Flink approaches the driver's side window. He uses his flashlight to illuminate the interior. This is a standard safety procedure, but it also serves as a diagnostic tool. The light reveals the driver's physical condition. The officer introduces himself and explains the reason for the stop. He states, "The reason I pulled you over, you're going 71 miles per hour. The interaction should be a simple exchange of documents and a signature on a citation. However, the sensory evidence tells a different story. As the window rolls down, the distinct and unmistakable odor of an unknown alcoholic beverage escapes the cabin. It hits the officer's olfactory senses immediately. He looks at the driver. Her eyes are not clear and focused. They are glossy. They appear watery and reflect the flashlight beam in a way that suggests chemical intoxication. When she speaks, her words do not come out with crisp articulation. Her speech is slurred. These are the three pillars of reasonable suspicion in a drunk driving investigation: odor, sight, and sound. The officer's training kicks in. The routine traffic stop has now evolved into a criminal investigation. The driver immediately attempts to control the narrative. She offers a physiological excuse for her high speed and erratic behavior. She tells the officer, "I got to go to the bathroom so bad it hurt." This statement is a common deflection tactic. Drivers often hope that a medical urgency will garner sympathy and explain away the signs of nervousness or speed. The officer acknowledges her statement, but does not waver from his objective. He asks for her license, registration, and insurance. The driver apologizes, saying, "I'm so sorry, sir." Her demeanor is already shifting from cooperative to frantic. The officer notices the escalation in her emotional state. He steps back to his patrol vehicle to run her information and request a backup unit. In DUI investigations, a second officer is crucial for safety and for witnessing the standardized tests. Officer Flink waits for the second unit to arrive before re-engaging the driver. When he returns to the window, his intent is to determine if she is safe to operate the vehicle. He asks the driver to step out of the car. He phrases it as a safety check. He says, "I want to make sure you're all set to drive." The driver's response is immediate defensiveness. She asks, "What do you mean set to drive?" The officer is transparent. He does not hide his suspicions. He tells her, "Make sure you're not under the influence." This accusation acts as a catalyst for a complete behavioral breakdown. The driver claims she is scared. She questions the validity of the officer's suspicion. She asks, "Why would you think I'm under the influence?" The officer lists the facts. He says, "Your speech is slurred. Your eyes are watery. I can smell coming out of the car. These are not opinions. They are observations recorded on the body camera." The situation quickly devolves into a traffic stop freakout. The driver refuses to exit the vehicle initially. She reaches for her phone to record the officer. employing a modern defense mechanism where citizens believe their own recording will override the officer's authority. The officer informs her that he is also recording. The tension rises as she finally steps out of the car. However, she does not stand normally. She exits with her hands raised high above her head. She screams, "My hands are up. I know I'm black. My hands are up." She is introducing a racial dynamic into a behavioral investigation. She frames herself as a victim of potential police violence, despite the officer's calm demeanor. She shouts, "I'm a woman. I'm not a threat." Officer Flink attempts to de-escalate the manufactured crisis. He keeps his voice level and his hands away from his weapons. He reassures her, "Nobody's hands are on their guns, so please go ahead and step out." The driver's actions are erratic. She is not following the simple instruction to walk to the back of the car. She screams, "Don't touch me." When the officer tries to guide her, she acts as if she is confused about where to stand. Despite the officer pointing to a specific spot, this confusion is another indicator of impairment. Alcohol affects the brain's ability to process spatial directions and verbal commands. The driver eventually moves to the rear of the vehicle but continues her verbal barrage. She accuses the officer of bias. She asks, "Why are you being racist?" The officer immediately refutes the accusation. He grounds the interaction in the physical evidence. He repeats, "I can see it and smell it." The driver attempts to use her personal life to disprove the accusation of racism. She yells, "My husband is white," as if her marital status immunizes her from a police officer's bias or from the effects of alcohol. The officer tries to pivot to the medical questions required before administering field sobriety tests. He asks if she has any medical conditions or eye problems. The driver ignores the questions. She begins to walk away from the officer. She starts walking along the white fog line of the highway without being told to do so. She shouts, "I can walk whatever you want." She is attempting to perform a test on her own terms, likely believing that walking a line proves her sobriety. However, the standardized field sobriety test is a divided attention test. It is not just about balance. It is about listening to instructions and performing physical tasks simultaneously. By walking the line before the instructions were given, she failed the listening portion of the exam. The officer tries to get her to return to the safe area. She continues to hold her hands up in a surrender pose that is unnecessary and dramatic. She pleads, "Please don't choke me or hurt me." The officer has not touched her. He has not threatened her. He is simply holding a pen, which he intends to use for the horizontal Gaze Nystagmus test. The driver fixates on the pen. She asks, "You see the top of this pen?" The officer replies, "Of course I see the top of the pen." The driver's behavior fits the profile of a woman plays victim police encounter. She is using extreme emotion to distract from the investigation. She screams, "I want to die, and I don't want to die," within seconds of each other. These contradictory statements suggest a lack of emotional regulation. The officer warns her that her behavior is obstructing the investigation. He tells her, "You're acting like a child." He explains that her refusal to listen prevents him from doing his job. He issues a clear warning. He says, "You're going to jail for resisting obstruction." The driver claims she did nothing wrong. She returns to her excuse about the bathroom. She says, "I had to go to the party really bad." In her confusion, she mixes up her story, saying party instead of potty or bathroom, a verbal slip that often accompanies intoxication. The officer decides to administer the tailor warnings. This is a crucial legal step in Florida DUI investigations. It comes from the case law Tailor v. State. It requires the officer to inform the suspect that their refusal to perform the field sobriety exercises can be used against them in court. It warns them that the refusal creates an inference of consciousness of guilt. Officer Flink reads the warning clearly. He states, "Your inaction to participate in these exercises will force me to make an arrest based on the totality of the circumstances." He explains that the arrest will be based on what he already knows, the driving. The smell, the eyes, and the speech. He asks her directly, "Are you willing to do these exercises?" The driver does not give a rational answer. She continues to scream, "Just don't kill me, please." She refuses to lower her hands to her sides, which is a requirement for the testing position. The officer attempts to reason with her one last time. He asks her to lower her hands. She refuses, claiming she is afraid he will think she has a weapon. The officer points out that no one has mentioned a weapon. The driver is trapped in a loop of panic and denial. She is unable to process the reality of the situation. She cannot focus on the officer's words. The officer realizes that no amount of explanation will break through her barrier of performative fear. She acts as if she is in a bodycam footage freakout video, hoping that her screams will intimidate the officer into letting her go. The officer makes the decision. He tells her, "You're under arrest for driving under the influence of alcohol." The driver is stunned. She asks, "I'm under arrest for what?" The officer explains that she failed to dispel his concern. As he moves to handcuff her, the driver's resistance shifts from verbal to passive physical. She stiffens. She screams about her personal items. She yells, "Are you taking my wig off?" The officer is conducting a search incident to arrest. He is checking her hair for hidden weapons or contraband. He assures her he is not trying to embarrass her, but he must ensure safety. He notices something interesting during her meltdown. Despite the loud sobbing and the screams of terror, there are no tears running down her face. He remarks, "It's interesting that you're trying to cry without tears." This observation is critical. It suggests that the emotion is not a genuine reaction to trauma, but a calculated attempt to manipulate the situation. The driver demands a supervisor. She asks, "May I have a supervisor?" The officer agrees to call one. This is a common request in a Karen traffic stop scenario. The suspect believes that the manager of the police department will arrive and reprimand the officer for doing his job. A sergeant arrives on the scene. The driver immediately tries to plead her case to the new authority figure. She complains that the officer threw her stuff on the ground. She claims she does not feel safe. The supervisor listens patiently but turns to Officer Flink for the facts. Officer Flink provides a concise briefing. He details the speed of 71 miles per hour. He describes the glossy eyes and slurred speech. He explains the odor of alcohol. He recounts her refusal to follow instructions and her erratic behavior. He explains that he read the tailor warnings twice, and she still refused to cooperate. The supervisor assesses the situation and sees no reason to intervene in the arrest. The facts support the officer's decision. The driver then asks the officers to look in her wallet. She claims, "I have my attorney in the wallet." She demands they call her lawyer immediately. The officer explains that they will not be calling her attorney on the side of the road. The time for legal counsel comes later. After the booking process, while the driver is placed in the back of the patrol car, the investigation continues with the passenger. The twin sister has been waiting in the car. The officers interact with her. Unlike the driver, the twin sister is calm. She is cooperative. She calls a family member to come and pick her up. She does not scream. She does not accuse the officers of racism. She does not claim to be afraid for her life. This contrast is devastating to the driver's defense. It proves that the police were not acting in a threatening manner. The pulled-over drama was entirely generated by the driver. The twin sister is released to family members who arrive at the scene. The driver is transported to the Palm Beach County Jail. At the jail, the investigation moves to the scientific phase. The driver is given the opportunity to provide a breath sample. This is the moment of truth. Despite her earlier claims of drinking only sparkling water, she provides 2 breath samples. Both samples register a blood alcohol concentration consistent with illegal impairment. The results confirm the officer's observations. The glossy eyes were not from allergies. The slurred speech was not a speech impediment. The odor was not imaginary. The chemical test proves that she was driving with a prohibited level of alcohol in her system. The driver is charged with driving under the influence and resisting officer without violence. The legal framework for this arrest is solid. Florida statute, section 316.193 defines the offense of DUI. It prohibits driving while normal faculties are impaired. The state has two ways to prove this: the breath test results and the video evidence of impairment. In this case, they have both. The video shows a loss of normal faculties. The driver could not follow simple directions. She could not control her emotions. She could not maintain a conversation. Her faculties were undeniably impaired. The charge of resisting officer without violence. Under Florida statute, section 843.02, is also supported by the video. The driver obstructed the investigation by refusing to stand in the designated area and refusing to lower her hands. She actively hindered the officer's ability to conduct the field sobriety exercises. The field sobriety test fail was not just physical, it was cognitive. The Tailor warnings serve as a critical pivot point in the legal analysis. By refusing the tests after being warned, the driver gave the prosecution a powerful tool. The jury is allowed to infer that she refused because she knew she would fail. This is known as consciousness of guilt. The officer's adherence to procedure protected the case. He gave her every opportunity to comply. He explained the consequences clearly. Her failure to heed those warnings sealed her fate. The defense might try to argue that she was having a panic attack, but the lack of tears and the selective hearing undermine that theory. She heard the officer perfectly well when she wanted to argue, but suddenly became deaf when he gave instructions. This incident highlights the broader impact of drunk driving on the community. Every year, thousands of people are killed or injured by impaired drivers. When a vehicle is moving at 71 miles per hour, the margin for error is razor thin. A driver who cannot follow a simple instruction to stand here certainly cannot make a split-second decision to avoid a child running into the road. The public resources wasted on this stop were significant. 2 police units and a supervisor were tied up for nearly an hour dealing with one belligerent driver. This meant they were unavailable for other emergency calls in Palm Beach Gardens. The driver's selfishness placed a burden on the entire public safety system. The accusation of racism is a serious matter that deserves attention when valid. However, when it is used as a smokescreen for criminal behavior, it damages the credibility of legitimate complaints. The video evidence exonerated Officer Flink. He remained professional throughout the entire encounter. He did not raise his voice in anger. He did not use profanity. He addressed her as ma'am. He displayed a high level of police professionalism. He withstood insults and threats without losing his composure. This professionalism makes the case against the driver even stronger. It removes the argument that the officer provoked the reaction. The driver's behavior stands in isolation as the cause of the conflict. There are important lessons to be learned from this case. The first is that the roadside is not a courtroom. There is no benefit to arguing with a police officer on the shoulder of a highway. The officer has the authority to detain and investigate based on reasonable suspicion. The driver's duty is to comply with lawful orders. If the driver believes the stop is unjustified, the proper venue to challenge it is in court, with a lawyer. After the fact, screaming and resisting only leads to additional charges. The second lesson is about the specific rights of a driver during a DUI stop. You do not have the right to an attorney during the roadside investigation. You do not have the right to a supervisor to cancel the arrest. The public should also recognize the warning signs of impairment in themselves and others. If you have to make a physiological excuse for your driving, you are likely not fit to drive. If you cannot process simple instructions, you should not be behind the wheel. The driver's twin sister, had she been sober and licensed, could have driven the car. The failure to utilize a designated driver or a ride-share service is a failure of judgment that often precedes the failure of coordination. The decision to drive was the first and most fatal error of the night. The video of this incident acts as a powerful deterrent. It strips away the glamour and denial of drunk driving. It shows the raw, ugly reality of an adult having a tantrum on the side of the road. It shows the indignity of being handcuffed while screaming about a wig. It shows the cold, hard result of a breathalyzer test. For anyone watching, the message is clear. The camera is always rolling, and the science does not lie. The driver pled guilty to one of the related charges, accepting the legal consequences of her actions. Her license was suspended, a penalty that serves to protect the public from her judgment for a period of time. In the end, the interaction between Officer Flink and the driver serves as a case study in human behavior under pressure. The officer represented order, procedure, and safety. The driver represented chaos, denial, and danger. The legal system is designed to mediate this conflict. It uses statutes, warnings, and evidence to determine the truth. The truth in this case was simple. A woman drove too fast, drank too much, and refused to accept responsibility until the law forced her to. The bodycam footage freakout remains as a digital witness to a night where bad choices collided with the rule of law. The roadway is a shared space, and the rules of that space are non-negotiable. When those rules are broken, the consequences follow with the inevitability of physics. The flashing lights are not a suggestion. They are a command to stop and account for your actions. This driver learned that lesson the hard way, in handcuffs, under the watchful eye of the camera.